Hello and welcome to our Separated by Water podcast. Joining you on Valentine's Day with my friend Colin Campbell. How are you, Colin?
Happy Valentine's Day, Paul. I'm okay so far.
Good. Well, the reason we said we'd do this, we talked in the last episode that your position with Spurs is getting more and more frustrating for you every day, and we said we'd discuss it, give you a platform to say and express what you feel is wrong. I might counter that with a few things that I maybe don't agree with you on, i.e. with players. I will say I have been approached to say what is wrong with Brendan Johnson, so we'll come to that. Fellow Forest supporters are saying he's not as bad as you think. I have some information about him, how he performed for us and how he's performed for you as well. Anyway, right. Tell us what's wrong at Spurs with ENIC, Levy, or Ange Postecoglou, the whole thing. Give it to us in a few minutes.
Where do I start? Well, as a bit of background, a bit of introduction. I want to say this is not a personal issue. I don't have any nasty things really to say about Levy or about ENIC. I think that they're genuine Spurs fans and wish the best in many ways for the club. I think they've done a lot good, particularly with the infrastructure. The ground, anyone who's been there will obviously say that, and the training facilities, well, apparently haven't been are first class. And they're making a fortune through events, the NFL, American football, karting, concerts. What was it, Beyonce and Rolling Stones?
You signed Beyonce last week.
Yeah, I wonder where she's going to play on Sunday. And boxing, Yeah. And that is part of the frustration that when we're sitting during the January window wondering what's going to happen, who we're going to get, we hear we've got Beyonce and the Rolling Stones. Yeah, and that can be antagonizing, irritating. So what's my problem then? I think that the one key criterion that any owner really should want to be judged by is success on the pitch. And I think we have been singularly unsuccessful as a top six, on occasions top four club over the period of ENIC's reign. One trophy in that period is not good. I think there have been an X number of 15 semi-finals and 5 finals. But I would make another point I'm going to come to shortly about why we just couldn't get over, I think that from ENIC's point of view, they make a fortune. And it's the belief of the fans that the money that's spent on the team is either, not enough or has been spent early or at the wrong time. We have had £100 million players. We had Bale, we had Modric, and we had Kane most recently. Now, not literally 100 million, but you know what I'm trying to say. And on occasions, the money that we got for those players was not really spent well. In general terms, I don't think ENIC are really serious about making Spurs a winning club. I think their emphasis is on making money, not victories. And yet, for me, I think that were they to have taken the step to make Spurs the really winning team, I think the money would have been beyond their wildest dreams. Spurs are a massive club with nothing really to tempt, not really to tempt people to support them, because not a lot happens for them in terms of trophies, That is a frustration that I think many fans have. How they express it sometimes wouldn't entirely be my taste, but there is a frustration amongst fans that we don't know how to get the message across.
There's a demonstration on Sunday, isn't there? There's a demonstration.
Yes, unfortunately, I can't go now. I was to go over to the match. My friend that I know with, he can't make it. I don't really understand. Says go without him. Well, we would have been there. Yeah, I admit I would have been making plans to be at the demonstration. Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah. Do you know what the intention is for the demonstration? What type of demonstration is going to be?
The demonstration is basically just sort of Spurs for change, and I think it's people saying that we need a change at the top. We need a new owner who is more, or who's genuinely, we believe, concerned about winning matches and winning trophies and gearing the emphasis on sufficient money to doing that. And we've got the money. It's not we're not sitting here saying, we're in Division 4 and we're dreaming, why don't we buy £100 million players? Tottenham are a massive club with a massive income who could really do this.
Okay. Can I just show you? Can I show you something?
Yeah.
There is a comparison. This is from transfermarket.co.uk, which basically shows the transfer money or the value of the squads. So at the minute, Spurs have a squad of 846.1 million, and we have less than half the price of that. We have 406. Our current squad. Now, I accept use of injuries. Let's look at alternatives. There's Man United, 724 million. So you're somewhere in between Liverpool and Man United, and sadly find yourself closer to Man United in the table than you do. And I'm not being nasty when I say that.
No,
so
it's
not. There is money. There's money being spent, Colin. So is it not being spent wisely?
Well, that's what I said. I think it's been spent poorly. I said not spent enough. I'll deal with each of these. Okay. I say not spent enough. I think that at times Spurs should have signed a game-changing marquee player. We've sold one or two of them. A guy that in the Pochettino days, maybe just coming into midfield, who would have just lifted things when the players were tired. A game changer, a De Bruyne. People like that. They were out there, but we keep ourselves out of that market. So that's one thing. I think that rather than buying two players for 40 million each, we could maybe buy one at 80 who would make that difference. Okay, that's one point. And about it being spent at the wrong time. I'll give you an example of when it wasn't spent. I've mentioned it before, but that's the thing with the Crystal Palace player, whatever it's called, where they'd offered 70 million 2 days before the window was to close. Now, I believe sincerely that psychologically that was talking, well, we're going to be a big bid. There's no chance Crystal Palace will accept that. We'll be able to keep the money in our pockets, but we can say to the fans, well, we really tried to bring in a top player. If they had wanted him, they would have been sorting that out in December to get him in early January, because the injury crisis was just as bad well before Christmas, well before the window, So that's the kind of thing.
Is that a strategy?
At the wrong time. Well, let me just say, at the wrong time, then
Hold on, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Hold on 2 seconds. Is that a strategy that these big clubs do? Because Arsenal done exactly the same thing with Ollie Watkins. They waited to 4 days before the transfer market. They'd all January. From the start of the window and done nothing. And then they slipped in, thought they were just going to buy Watkins like that. Didn't buy him. And now Havertz is injured and won't be playing. And now they've no number 9, no striker, nobody to put in goals. Yeah, doesn't upset me because I'm in direct competition with them in the league. They're sitting above us, 3 points ahead of us.
You're trying to cheer me up. You're trying to cheer me up.
Yeah, well, I know I have cheered you up a wee bit to remind you.
Well, I'm not sure. Look, I can't really speak for Arsenal. I don't want to.
No, but what I'm saying is this a strategy with big clubs to try and mislead the fans that they're get their best interests at heart?
I think at times there has been, and they used to call it Levy time, where it would come to the end, or sticker twist, come right down to the wire and say, will you take this money? And some clubs who were selling clubs would have been inclined to do it, and they're agitated. But it does work. As far as Arsenal are concerned, I think that Duran moving to Saudi, sticking the wicket for them, because there's no way Villa were going to let two of the forwards go at one time. Watkins might have been open to it in normal circumstances, but it just wasn't going to happen. That's their problem. Where they turned, I'm not sure. I think Arsenal want to get him because they know they need somebody. Yeah. With Tottenham at times, I think this ploy has been tried. There are a number of them, Martinez, a couple of Italian forwards who looked like they were going, and then they don't. Another thing they do is they agree a fee with the club, but don't include the player, apparently, at the early stages. So then they go, well, I don't want to go there. The way it is you court the player, you make him feel like he's really wanted, like he's essential to your future. These are young men They can be talked to and talked around. And if you really want the player, you get him. You know,
Okay.
and that's what big clubs do. Except us.
Okay. Let's deal with the ENIC thing and try and put that to bed, and then we'll talk about something
Right.
else. ENIC, if you were asking me, I'm saying you've no chance of getting rid of these guys. They're on a cash cow in that stadium now. They're making a fortune. They've been tipping away, keeping you in European slots. Your only chance now is the Europa League. But up until now, it has worked. They've kept you sort of appeased with a bit of happiness. If you can't get them out, is there some other group of supporters that approaches them, talks to them? Do you just have a body like that?
Yeah, Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. It has its critics, but I think it does pretty well. Now,
and what sort of relationship do they have with Levy?
Well, maybe too good a one. That's what the critic would say. Too cozy. I'm not sure. I think that what they're trying to do is not be adversarial, not be aggressive, and see the world as it is, and try to gain something from them. They're talking about key principles. They want, as I understand it, they want Levy. When I say Levy and ENIC, to agree to or abide by certain key principles, and one of them is like a winning approach, a winning strategy, and being committed to that, and not doing what you've said, which is just enough to keep us all appeased, because that's what we want. We want the thrill. We want the thrill, the excitement, the hope, the expectation, even times. And we've had a lot of that, but we've never just gone over the, other teams seem to know what's needed and get it. We don't.
See, I think
now we don't do it.
Yeah, I think now, and I'll bring up the Brennan Johnson now. You made sort of a statement the last day. I asked you if Brennan Johnson was injured. You said somebody looked at him, and a Forest supporter made a comment to me saying that you would never hear a Forest supporter talking about one of their players like that, and he felt it was disrespectful the way you immediately, like, it's just that if they're not fit, you're sort of playing them down as if they've no reason to not be fit. And I'll let you answer that in a minute. But is it not a case that at the minute Ange's team are suffering too many injuries, and that has to be looked at, Colin. It has to be. Brennan Johnson, whenever he was with Forest, he had an injury. He was back fairly quickly and was back at it quite quickly. Well, defend your comments about Brennan Johnson first of all. I don't want to leave you.
Okay. We had a player years ago, Darren Anderton, who was probably a little bit hurtfully known as Sick Note. And I don't think it was probably, looking back, I think it was probably not fair. But I do remember him, I think, being injured in the warm-up a couple of times. And it just, you get a bad name. My remark about Brennan Johnson was at him. It wasn't really meant to be as personalized as it probably sounded. I do apologize. It was a general frustration on my part and a little bit of growing suspicion about some of the players. You just seem, I think every one of them was falling down injured. Now, the injury thing is real. The players are injured, can't play, and we've suffered quite badly from that. In a way, what I say about that is I respect the players anyone who wears a white shirt should give their all, be out there and do their best. And I support them and give them my love and goodwill.
Right.
And that's fair enough. But I think that a lot of guys currently there, some superstars, Archie Gray,
I think he's a legend. He's going to be a great player.
I think exhausted, and I accept that. And I would love these other guys to get back in there as quickly as they can. Brennan Johnson, I'm slightly disappointed overall. I think he's a highly naturally talented player, but I think far too often in Spurs games, over the 90 minutes or 100 minutes or whatever it is now, he becomes a little bit too peripheral, particularly when we maybe need to dig in a bit. Now, he's great at coming in from the far wing and scoring, and we've seen him do that, and I love that, of course. But sometimes I think I would just like him to show a bit more.
He's slight. He's very slight, Colin. We're going to defend him because he's a red.
strong
He
man. I
is,
would like him to punch me in the face, which he might
yeah,
do.
he is one of our. He's one of our own, and I will defend him. I watched him. I remember telling you I watched him. I think it was over a
Yeah.
Burnley game at City Ground, and he went past as I was a
Mhm.
seat fairly near the front, and it was like a gazelle. He's fast, but
Well,
he's very slight. You don't want him to get involved in tussles. I think
well,
actually
I want
somebody.
him to.
I feel that
He
somebody that's
needs
letting you
to come
down
back.
more than him
Right.
is Madison. I think Madison is
Well,
underperforming for you.
I mean, we're going to have a hierarchy of who's down. We're just talking about Brennan Johnson. All I'm saying is that for whatever his build, he's a highly fit athlete. I would like him to see go past people more. That's what I thought he
Yeah.
would do for him. I think he hasn't done that enough, and that's what I mean about being peripheral. And he can drop out of a game. I've seen him like against West Ham and a couple of games where he stayed out in the wing and really as if he wasn't, he's happy to stay there, not really get involved. That was my impression. But I want them at Spurs. I want them to be the player I think he can be. Madison, I'm disappointed with this season. I was delighted when he came to us. He was the kind of player I really like. And for the first 10, 15 games of last season, was the kind of player that I thought he was, if you know what I mean. And he orchestrated with Sarr and Basuma. I thought was a midfield that looked the part. Not only through injury, I'm not sure what else, but they've gone very much off the boil. We really need a leader's role from James Madison. We need him to lift the team, to get back to doing that and showing us what made off, particularly as the goal is very, very tough. And it will be for the rest of the season. So, yeah, I'm disappointed that way. And just at the end, one thing that said, bringing in Danso and Tels at the very last minute, I hope they work well for us. But why is it all done at the very last minute? Why do these things happen? I'm just slightly suspicious about how ENIC really go about what they're doing,
Yeah. Apologies about that. We'd since the storm last week, our power just keeps flickering, and it's just done it again. I've been at my computer all day. So okay, well let's. I assume that you filled fairly well for me there in my absence. Tell me about Ange. Do you think he's the manager to take you to the next level?
I have issues with Ange. What I say is that to me the big problem is ENIC, the ownership, okay, and what I've described in terms of their lack of commitment to winning football matches versus making a fortune through all these other events and infrastructure. Okay, and I have issues with personally. And what are they? From the start, I was a little bit worried that I was coming from Scotland, or with great respect to the teams in
Two-team
Scotland.
league, yeah.
You are one team these days, and I think it was easier for him to win in Scotland than it might be for him to win in England. We're sort of seeing that. I worry about the style of play, and I worry, does it contribute to the injuries as well as the defeats? Now, I've been there. I've watched what's happened. We've been taken apart. Are outthought by teams like Wolves. Over the time, Villa beat us, West Ham beat us, Chelsea always, Arsenal, Liverpool, and yet in the early part of the first season, we beat Liverpool, we beat Man United, we were top of the table, and then it felt like teams had just started to find us out a wee bit.
I think so.
Now, people talk about, there's no plan B. I don't necessarily believe in plan A's and plan B's and plan C's. I think top players and top managers should be able to read what's going on the pitch and change it, make changes, be fluid enough.
Seems to be this attitude with managers now. I'm playing my style, and even I think Ange was quoted to say, if I get down to 5 players, I'll keep on playing the same style. Yeah. That's not management.
Well, I watched them do that. I watched them do that against Chelsea and lose, So,
but management's about winning games and adapting and bringing it about. Like Nuno.
Yeah, I agree.
We went out and get beat 5-0, and the following week we won 7-0 because Nuno changed. He went, that didn't work. We need to change, and we changed. And he changed everything about what we done and a different approach, and it worked. Yeah. And but I just think there's, if you look at the money that you spent there. And I know that you've been affected with injuries, and I'm not saying that Ange's blameless. in the injuries. I don't think he covers himself in glory the way that he brings players back so quickly. There has to be some. I think there is history of this in Celtic as well. Why is he doing that? Why is it being looked at? Today is a much more advanced game than it used to be, with all this medical data they have and impact and why are your players getting injured as much as they are?
Yeah, I mean that is an issue. These are commodities, if you will, multi-million-pound commodities.
Absolutely.
And it seems strange to me that you're being treated or something. Whatever's happening. I watched. I was at the Chelsea game last season, not the Chelsea game this season. But last season, there were a number of our delays, and I could watch the players almost pulling down. And I looked at Van de Ven's long legs, and oh my God, I said that something's going to happen here. This guy's going to sprint and pull a hamstring. And I'm not saying I can predict the future, but obviously that kind of thing happened. This season, Romero and Mickey Van de Ven came back for that Chelsea game, and both of them were off injured within about 20-25 minutes. We were 2-0 up, I think, at the time, but now whose fault is that? I think that something's going wrong with the medical side, but I think style of play has contributed to this, and then the amount of play. But you've got 2 games, whatever it is, a week or some of the times, and we'll have to get around that, and then we'll go back. You see, it's like we'll go back to saying, is the squad strong enough? Have ENIC invested? But I think the ENIC phenomenon, it's taken us a long time to get here, and that's what I want people to bear in mind. It has taken us 6 or 7 years, or some people would say longer, because even in the halcyon days of Pochettino, there was at least one window where we didn't buy a single player. Now, I'm not saying do the Forest bring in 30 years. I bring in 1 or 2 key players each opportunity to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Bob Paisley of Liverpool replaced the unreplaceable nearly following Bob Shankly. He was even more successful. He said what he did was quite simply every summer he brought in 1 or 2 players and changed it, put an impetus, so nobody felt comfortable or safe and always performing to the best of their ability. And I see what that can be done. It doesn't need to be wholesale. I mean, whenever we sold Bale, we talked about the Bale money, and there were a number. Not only Ericsson really worked in the longer term of those, because what happens if you sell one for 100 and buy 5 for 20? Well, I don't need to give you.
Yeah, but you can buy one. You can buy one for 150 and you get injured the first day as well. You have to weigh that into it as well.
That can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That can happen.
Exactly.
I accept that, but you've got to work on the principles that you've got to. Medical systems keeps these guys. And one of the things that makes a player 100 million or 120 million is they're less often injured, tend to recover quicker because they're the amount of money, because of the amount of time they're on the pitch. And that's something that needs to be looked into too. So, if a player's worth that amount of money, there's a lot of factors that make that player worth that amount of money. But we've been a long time getting to here, because in 2009, Spurs team from Christmas to the Champions League final were running on empty. They had a couple of decisions that went their favor against City, and the remarkable night in Amsterdam, which I'll never forget. But they'd lost a lot of games in the league at that time, and they were tired and they were done out. And that's why that summer, Pochettino talked about the painful rebuild, because he didn't get a chance to evolve. It was going to, too many of them were getting older at one time. So it's taken a long time for ENIC to get us to this state. And it could take quite a while to get us back up again where we know we should be.
Yeah. Okay. You often say you're sort of sick of people making jokes about Spurs, and I used to be guilty of saying them to you as well, and I don't anymore. I've pulled back from that. But you just mentioned there that Forest buying 30 players. I listened to a very interesting article the other day, and it basically said if Forest hadn't bought the 30 players that they bought, they wouldn't have stayed up. So what they done was, there's a man driving home because his wife's having a baby and he needs to go home. He drives fast, gets a fine, but he gets home in time to He gets home in time to make sure that the baby's okay.
Yeah.
Marinakis spent money, kept us up, and this year it looks as if 3 come up are going to go back down again because they haven't spent money. So I think that you have to spend the money, but then year 2 and year 3 up, we settled things down. We paid our fine, we took the hit, but now we're settled down and we're building a squad, and we built a squad for still half the price of Spurs.
Is this about Forrest or about Spurs?
Sorry?
Is this about Forrest? Well, are we talking about Forrest or about Spurs?
No. We're talking. I'm talking about the both that you mentioned there. That you cited Forrest about buying. They bought 30 players. You don't want them doing that.
Yeah, I don't know how they bought. It was certainly quite a lot.
Yeah, it was 30
and
players.
And it worked.
But what I'm saying is, I think Kevin, whenever he was on and talking about the Man United episode we have, he said that Man United had a flaw in their transfer market in that they didn't buy players from the Premiership. They always bought players from abroad or buy players from abroad. They come in and they don't adapt to the Premiership just straight away. I think Spurs might be guilty of that as well. That they bring players in and maybe don't settle in. Richarlison, where did he come from? You bought him from the Premiership, didn't you? Richarlison.
Well, from Everton,
Everton.
But it's a mystery.
Poor example.
We had seen him play just the season before he came. We'd seen him play at Tottenham at a 5-0 defeat. Spurs beat Everton 5-0. Frank Lampard's Everton, and regardless, spent more time on his backside than on his feet. To the extent where every time he fell over, the Spurs fans were like, he came, okay, let's give him a go. But I mean, we've seen nothing really of him, to be honest. Now, then people will say, oh, well, you can't, kind of bother. Spurs spent 60 million on Richarlison, and it's not, it's not Levy's fault that he's been injured. I take that point, but the point I would make is it appears to me that Conte, who was a manager at the time, who had got us to 4th place and into the Champions League halfway through the previous season, it appeared that he was making remarks about not having been consulted on the players who were coming in, which I think is frankly weird, because I think if you've got a manager who particularly one with that status, who had proven himself by getting us into the Champions League, they should at least be consulted about who they want,
Yeah.
But anyway,
tell me, with ENIC, does Levy pick the players or does the manager pick the players? Or does Levy have any role in picking them?
We don't know. I mean, there's the recruitment officer. There's the manager, perhaps. There's Levy. I think that when talking about Levy went out to Germany to try to get the guy to sign. It appears he was unsuccessful, and then it was a conversation with the hands that brought him over. I don't know. That's what we hear. I'm not sure, but I mean, obviously it's the Levy and ENIC who sign the checks, and will influence the policy.
Yeah.
Recent thinking was managers should be on the training ground, coaching players. First team coach will become known. Somebody else can do the business. They give them a list and say, get of those what you can. And there's a lot of stats and facts go into this Moneyball style noise and all that. It is what it is. But I think the best person who can foresee or imagine what he wants on the pitch is the manager.
Yeah.
Who will say, I see so.
This is the bit I don't understand. This is the bit I don't understand, because ultimately, if a manager's picking the way he wants to play, he has to look at the player that wants to play that way and bring them in. I think a legend for you has been Jed Spence. I think he's been pushed all over the park and performed everywhere.
Yes, he a great, a really good signing, and a very good, say a good price, a very good price, a very good high price for a defender. On myself, I realize that defenders don't usually attract as much of a fee as skillful midfielders and forwards, but yes, I think he's done extremely well, but he wasn't being given a chance at the start. I mean,
why? I was leading you there. Why was he not given the chance? Why was he not given the chance to play before this?
I have Spurs play, and I watched him play a couple of reserve games. I thought he was excellent. I do not know, and nobody really seems to know. And when Adobe comes back, will he be there still? We'll just have to see. Destiny apparently is fit again, but I would like to see Spence become a fixture there, and to be
Absolutely.
in.
I think he deserves it, Colin.
But I
Like,
don't know
whenever
who's doing that. I mean, if you ask me, we'll talk about Ange before I want Ange sacked. No, I don't. I think there's a couple of guys I'd rather have there. But at the moment, I don't think that is a solution really to anything.
no,
I think we've got a season to get through. Now, we've got the UEFA, which is our only chance. I think the two performances against Liverpool and Villa were largely abject for most of it.
yeah,
It was, and I felt sorry for the over 7,000 Spurs fans who went to each of those games.
yeah.
Really players have just got to put their hearts, and souls in the line for the fans. Any team, but probably those so-called big teams.
Well, I think that if Ange's true to his word, at least you're going to win a European Cup this year, because he said that he wins
Well,
in his second year. So at least if he is going to win you something, you're winning big this year. You're winning something.
Well, yeah, that would be wonderful, because I think the finals in Bilbao.
Yeah.
So I look forward to this main night there.
A trip over there. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I haven't booked my ticket yet. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure. I think managers, Murray Walker syndrome, just don't say something like that, because it will come back to haunt you.
This weekend,
nothing can go wrong now.
Yeah.
We have two things to do: is get further up the table, which is no big. What's good about that, and the other one is to win that darn trophy.
Okay.
Now, I watched some of the last night, the qualifying games, and some good names. Porto play each other, out. PSV, Real Batiste. There's some good teams in there. It's not a gimme by no stretch. And United will be wanting to win as well, because they see what we see. The
position next year, Europe. That's probably the only route into it at this stage.
Champions League, yeah, definitely.
I'll ask you about the game at the weekend. You of United coming to visit. How do you predict that'll go?
Well, I don't usually do predictions. One thing I would say is that I've been to United Spurs games quite a lot over the time, and I've always been nervous, edgy, worried. In my age group and where I came from in Belfast, many of us either had supported United or you hated them, and that was really the truth, even with George Best and all that. So they're still my team that I really envy. That part of me. I always had that thing about them.
Somebody said to me after the last episode, when you said you didn't like to do predictions, you were very superstitious about it. They said maybe you should stop being superstitious and just start predicting, because it can't go much worse for you.
No, it can't get any worse. Yeah, no. Yeah, I know that. I had a feeling. Don't help. It's really hard to know which Spurs will turn up. If you want a prediction, I think both teams will be afraid to lose this game.
Well, very much so. I think there'll be a lot of goals. I think there'll be a lot of goals in that game, and I think that Spurs will probably come out on top. But United come in with their tails up.
Spurs could edge it, and then I'll be really sorry I'm not there. Well, that's how it goes.
Final question for you on Spurs. It's not the final question about their position. Where will they end up in the season? And then one final closing question for you after that. Where will you end up in the season? Where will you end up in the Premier League?
Position in Premier League?
Yes. Yeah.
I would say 9th or 10th. I had predicted them with 8th.
You had? Not far away.
So I think, what I'll tell you is one thing, there are a lot of difficult games coming up, including Switch, including City, United, Bournemouth, so Spurs aren't home. Because they won one game against Brentford doesn't mean that they're not in trouble. One of those teams could have I think Southampton are away, but one of those other teams could have a quick burst.
You're not suggesting that you're still relegation material, though.
I think we should feel like that in a certain way and have that edge to get some more points. Yeah,
but I don't think you're relegation material. There's 5 teams much worse than you guys. Even in your worst day, I think there's 5 teams worse. So there's two trains of thought within Spurs: those that want ENIC and Levy out, and those that are saying it's a great situation. Have you want to say to the ones that are on the other side, we've heard very clearly what you think, say. Is there anything you'd like to say to the ones that are on the other side?
Well, I tried to my remarks by saying, I acknowledge a lot that, Levy and ENIC have done. And people who often are pro Levy, let's go talk about the work that's been done, the very things that I'm talking about. And I'm saying I acknowledge all of those. But what I support the football team, and I want to see the winning. I want to see a winning mentality. I want us back. I want to see us winning games. I want to see us winning trophies before I die.
Yeah.
And I would suspect, and I'm sure that is not a priority for ENIC. Their priority, they're filling their, making fortunes. All the financial figures are great, but not the trophy, the cabinet. No, and I'd say, guys, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. And some go, well, if you're not happy, go and support somebody else. Well, that's an utter failure to understand what it's like supporting a team. You just don't choose to go and support somebody else. You let a team into your heart, into your bloodstream, into your soul, usually from a very young age. And after that, there's nothing you can do about it. And
I think the majority of people get that. There is a very small minority of people who, I remember seeing them when I lived in Limavady, people who were wearing Blackburn Rovers shirts or jerseys for a short period of time, and then the next thing they're back in their Chelsea jerseys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're true football supporters, and they never will be.
Well, they support winning. People support winning. Winning's nice, I imagine.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, I wish you all the best in the league. That's 36 minutes we chatted away. I think apologise for the break. And I think this weekend, Colin, I think this weekend could be the start of the settling of how things are going to work out. And include that for Forest as well. I think Arsenal losing Havertz, all the different teams, Bournemouth are kicking up with their tails. Newcastle are pushing with their tails up as well. I think that there's this weekend could see a few results that could change things both at the top, the middle, and at the bottom. I think that Leicester are no pushover. Man United, no pushover for you. We have Fulham. We are away to Fulham. No pushover either. We've had our ass smacked many, many times at Fulham, so we'll just wait and see how it goes. But I wish you all the best for the rest of the season. As you know, I don't want to see Spurs do
on that note, probably just a special mention. It's sort of well done Fulham, well done Marco Silva, well done Bournemouth, well done Areola.
Yeah.
There's no well done Eddie Howe. There's still lots of good stuff. We're talking broadly outside our teams in terms of, because we are separated by water. We talk about all teams. A lot of good stuff going on there, and good luck to all of them. And still lots to play for, lots of good, exciting stuff to look forward to in the season. And we hope to be back reporting on it and talking about it. So,
do you wish you still had the less charismatic Nuno at your club, or would you be happy with his exit?
I was there I was at the two games where they lost 3-0 at home to Chelsea and 3-0 at home to Man United. And I'd gone to go to the league. I came back up again and watched the third goal go in on the TV screen, and I thought, right, no, I did. And we were sitting on the in the Wetherspoons in the airport the following day, and I think the Spurs were having an extraordinary general meeting and basically to sack me. I think I never got the chance to warm to him. He seemed distant and not non-communicative. And then when we heard the words Antonio Conte, I for one thought, God, this is going to be brilliant, So it was that. Sadly, that was the way.
How did that work out? Didn't work out
well. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. How did it work out? Another manager who knew what needed to be done, and didn't get an opportunity to do it.
I have to say, with Nuno, he was a slow burner for me. When he arrived in, I was still smarting at Steve Cooper being sacked. I still wanted Steve Cooper to be there. Come hell or high water, I preferred he'd be there because of what he's done for our club. And he'll always be a hero at our club. I think that Nuno, when he came in at the beginning, I couldn't work him out. He's very quiet, he's not this charismatic person in interviews, but he's grown on me, and I think he's maybe he was just what Spurs needed, and maybe a better chance should have been given to him. Because where were you when he sacked him? And I'm not being funny. Where were you in the league when you sacked him? You were still well up the league.
We were ninth, and he's ninth. But he had won the first three games.
Yeah.
Beat City at home, one away at Wolves and then 1-0 against Watford.
Right.
And it all seemed, well, fair enough, although the victory against Watford was hardly inspiring. But then, let's see, the wheel, I think we were playing past the following. You were losing games. So it felt like you lost 4 or 5 games in a row, but it looked like the wheels had come off.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's what, at that time, you know, Spurs were, look where they were, and heard where they are now, and said we need to take action.
Yeah.
And probably the chance, Conte apparently had been for the job initially, but couldn't take it or didn't take it at that time. Started the season and then said he was available to take it, and we were all probably tantalized by that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think there are certain managers who are better managers at certain types of clubs. No disrespect to anyone. I think Nuno was better placed at Forest than he was going to be at Tottenham. And he's done well. He's doing very well.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, mate. I think you've aired all your thoughts, beliefs, and I do hope. I know there's demonstrations on Sunday. I hope it's peaceful first and foremost, which I think it will be. I don't think there's any indication it'll be anything but that. But I hope it's peaceful and that they get their point across. And I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens with Spurs. But hopefully, he'll push up the league a bit, and we'll just wait and see how things work out. Okay. All right, buddy. Have a happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And please, as always, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be putting up another travel diary or 2 at the weekend. There's a gentleman traveling to Liverpool on Sunday. He's going to send us some video clips, again, from Ireland, separated by water, travelling over to a game. And we have another one we're going to put up of Charlie Vaughan travelling over to the Exeter City game. He sent me the information and the videos. Exeter City was a very, very interesting wee club. I've slipped through the videos. We made it hard for ourselves. The glory of the FA Cup lives on. That's why it's so majestic. You know, it's these small teams can excel at them, so it's good. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day to one and all, and we'll chat to you soon. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you very much. All the very best.